So, how are you guys doing today? Today, we're going to talk about quadratic key features. If you are following along in your Unit 7 packet, this is going to be on page 11 of the Unit 7 packet. All right. So, we've been talking about quadratics. We've talked about the ax squared plus bx plus c format when we were doing our factoring in the previous unit. Okay. So now we're going to set it equal to y or equal to 0 and make it an equation. We're going to graph it. When we talk about the graph of a quadratic function, it's called a parabola. And it's this kind of curved shape. Okay. So we've got some key features that we want to label on our parabola. And whether the parabola opens up or it opens down, the key features are going to be the same. Okay. So the first one that we want to talk about is our vertex. Okay. So the vertex is that point of the graph where it changes direction. Okay. And I'm going to erase this one and move it to the other side. So it's where it changes direction, and it's, if it's opening up, then instead of going down, now it's going to go up. If it's opening down, instead of going up, then it will go down. Okay, so where it changes direction. If the vertex is at the bottom of the parabola, it's called a minimum. And if it is at the top of the parabola, it is called a maximum. Okay. And then the next key feature actually goes through the vertex, and it's this line here. It's called the Axis of Symmetry. Okay. And when we identify the axis of symmetry, we identify it as an equation, as x equals whatever that number is, where that x value of that vertex. Okay. Those two key features, the axis of symmetry and the vertex, for Algebra 1, those are exclusive to parabolas. Okay. We also have our intercepts, and our intercepts are going to be the same for parabolas as they are for linear functions, as they are for exponential functions, or any other function. Okay. The first key feature that is the same for all functions is a y-intercept. Okay. Where that graph crosses the y-axis, that's going to be our y-intercept. Okay, for Algebra 1, for our parabolas and our linear functions and later our exponential functions, we are only going to have one y-intercept. The next key feature is our x-intercepts. So parabolas will often have two x-intercepts. Okay. Linear functions only have one x-intercept, but again, they're common to both functions. Now, the x-intercepts have a few other names. Let me spell intercepts correctly here. Okay, intercepts. We can also call them solutions. We have in the past with linear equations also called them zeros. And with parabolas, quadratic equations, we also call them roots. So roots, zeros, x-intercept, solutions. Those are all the same points on your graph. Okay. All right, so let's look at actually graphing some parabolas. Okay, and we have to be careful. We're going to look for some points. We'll use a calculator, get some points, and then we'll graph those points. But we have to be careful when we are drawing them in. a graph that kind of looks like this. It has a curve to it. This is a parabola. This is an x squared type of equation. If you have one that, if you straighten your lines out so that it looks like a V instead of a U, this is an absolute value type of equation. So please be careful. Make sure that your parabola has some kind of curve to it, okay? Otherwise, it's an absolute value, so it's a completely different function. All right, we're going to put this first example into our calculator, into y equals. You see I've already got the calculator, y equals, so we're going to do x squared minus 4x plus 5. We're going to go look at our table first, because that's what we want to look at. We want to look and fill in these numbers based on our table. So when x is -1, our y is 10. And when x is 0, our y is 5. At 1, our y is 2. At 2, our y is 1. And then 2, 5, and 10. Okay. Now, if you'll notice, my numbers are repeating on my y value. Okay. This number that's in the middle, where everything starts repeating around it, you see that the 2's repeat, the 5's repeat, the 10's repeat around it. Okay, that's symmetry on either side. But this point in the middle, this 2, 1, this is going to be our vertex. Okay, so on our graph, that's what we're going to graph first, is that vertex. And then we can graph the other points. Okay, so 1, 2, 0, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then -1, 10. Now, axis of symmetry is going to go through our vertex. And in a case where we only have half of our parabola, we can use that axis of symmetry and mirror our points across the axis of symmetry. Okay, so I'm going to go 3 away. 1, 2, yes. Okay. And then we're going to connect our points and make our little U shape. Okay, so our vertex is at 2, 1. Our axis of symmetry is this invisible line that runs through our vertex. And it is again, like I said earlier, we're going to write it as an equation as x equals, because it is a vertical line. The equation of a vertical line is always x equals. And it's where x equals 2. Our minimum or maximum comes from our vertex. It's the y value of our vertex, and that is 1. Okay? So this is our min max number. And this one right here. Let me fix this. Here we go. Min slash max. Okay. And this number right here is our axis of symmetry number. Okay. Now this min max number is also going to be part of our range. Okay. We need to remember that here a little bit when we talk about domain and range. Our zeros. Where does it cross the x-axis? And if you notice, when we go look at our x-axis here, our parabola never crosses the x-axis. So since it never crosses the x-axis, we have no zeros. It doesn't even touch the x-axis. Okay? The lowest it goes is 1, and then it turns back around. If we have no zeros, we have no solutions. Okay? And it's perfectly fine. A parabola does not have any solutions or x-intercepts. For our domain, I'm going to change my color here. For our domain, that's our x values. Okay? So our x values actually just keep going in both directions. Anytime it keeps going in both directions, that means that our x is all real numbers. Okay? Our range starts here at 1, and then it keeps going up from there. Because 1 is our minimum. That's the lowest it can go, so y has to be greater than or equal to 1. Okay? So there's our first example. Now if we look at page 12, and look at our next example, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger and move it over. Okay? If we look at our next example, we have y equals negative x squared plus 2x plus 1. Let's put that into our y equals. Let's get our negative. We're going to use the negative button that's under the 3. X squared plus 2x minus 1. And then we're going to go look at our table. If you're getting an error, a syntax error, make sure that you use the negative button and not the minus button. Okay? So at -2, our y is -9. At -1, our y is -4. And then -1, 0, -1, -4, and -9. Okay? So again, if we look at where our symmetry is, okay, -1 and -1, -4, -4, -9, -9. So this 1, 0 point is our vertex. Okay, so that's where we're going to start our parabola, 1, 0. And then we could graph the other points around it. So at 0, -1, at -1, -4, and at -2, -9. And since our axis of symmetry runs through our vertex, we can mirror those points. We have them written down there, so we could just match our points on each side. And then combine, connect all our points together to make our parabola. Okay? So again, our vertex is here at 1, 0. Okay? Our axis of symmetry is where x equals 1. We have a maximum this time because it is the highest point, and our maximum is at 0. Okay? Now, if we look at the zeros, where does it touch the x-axis? It touches the x-axis at 0. Excuse me. Touches the x-axis at 1. Touches the x-axis at 1. Okay? So that means our solution is 1. Okay? And then our domain, we look at our domain. Again, our x is going to keep going in both directions. So our domain is still going to be all real numbers. Okay? And our range is going to start here at 0, and it's going to go down from there. So the 0 has to be bigger. So y is less than or equal to 0. Okay? All right, for those of you that are watching this as part of my class, because I'm out today, your assignment is on pages 13 and 14. You're doing problems 1 through 5. You're filling in the tables, graphing it, and then identifying each of those key features. Okay? If you have any questions, I will be back in class on Wednesday, and you can ask me then. Have a great day, guys, and get to work.